Hello, hello. Julie Bartkus here, along with my fantastic co-host, Mr. Michael Tasner, welcoming you to our Get Connected show. We are live with you on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. And we've got a great topic today all about organization. So if you ever feel like the walls are just caving in on you, like I used to many, many years ago, this is going to be a great show for you because we're going to help you get organized around your enrollment process, around your staff process, and probably just in your life in general. So we're going to share with you some of our best tips and help you just really feel the dynamic that happens when organization in your life unfolds. Hey, Michael, how are you?
Doing really well. Doing really well. As I said earlier, the weather is great outside. We've got that warm up as well. It's like 45.
Yes, 40 in Chicagoland.
Yeah, it's sunny, and so no, everything is good. The month for me at least, it felt like it flew by, and
oh my goodness, right?
can't believe that this month is already
last week of February. Oh my goodness, I know, right? And it's just like, but the cool thing is spring is right around the corner, and I know that rejuvenates a lot of us. And we've got the topic of, spring cleaning. And I was thinking about that yesterday. I think I was putting out my bedroom. I'm like, I think I'm ahead of the schedule because spring cleaning is technically March, April. But man, I am feeling it. I want to get everything organized and everything just looking better. And I believe that there's so much power when you clean up and clear out your space. And I was once told that sweeping the floor is kind of like just clearing out old energy from your life. So whenever I have to pick up a broom, instead of, bemoaning the process, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm cleaning up my mindset, cleaning up my life. And this is all really good and energizing. So
I love it.
Yeah. So don't think badly if you have to sweep.
I'm going to post a few quick questions and comments to our group and
Awesome.
all of our listeners. So make sure you guys and gals say hello.
Yeah, if you're here tuning in, say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And let us know also, is organization something that you struggle with? Because I tell you what, I come from a household, and Mom, I'm sorry if you're listening, where there was a lot of stuff that was collected. My mom had a closet filled with like 7 different sizes of clothes that fit her at various stages in her life. And I think she still has one of those closets anyway. But I came from a home that was very crowded, very cluttered. And now I live, in a nice big space, but it's more minimalistic because I think it really gives you creative power and adds to the process of coming up with some really cool ideas when you've got a clear space to function from.
And what I've been realizing more and more over the years is, and this is everything I say is said with love, that, and this is, true for most entrepreneurs, but if you want to get to that next level of entrepreneurship, you need to master the art and skill of kind of organization in a general sense. But I'm finding that, childcare center owners in particular are extremely fragmented and all over the place. And it's kind of the nature of the beast. And it's that whole piece of your kind of switching from one task to the next task. So you could be doing an interview for a new director or a new teacher at 8 in the morning, and then 9 in the morning, your accountant's pinging you to make sure you hit the payroll numbers or approve payroll, so that can get to everyone by Friday. And then your marketing agencies, hey, your team's not following up with the lead. So like you're constantly a little bit all over the place. But what I've realized is that, and there's a lot of analogies we could use of, you've got to make sure that you own the day and not let the day own you. And I know that both Julie and I are going to have a lot of great kind of hacks and tips and maybe a case study or two as well. But it's getting to the place where you can operate at your best level. And if you're just constantly all over the place, in some of our I guess biggest clients, for example, that they can be a little bit all over the place. But I'm like, once you start to take a step back, you can really realize it's that whole E-Myth. If you haven't read the book, The E-Myth, for everyone listening, great book of working on the business, not in the business. And that starts to allow you to kind of transition out of the job. Did you basically build a job for yourself? And almost all of it really does come back to systems and processes and structure around your day. And then how do those things set you up so that your team can effectively make decisions and change things? And it really does come back to the organizational side of things.
Well, and what an important point, right? Because our owners typically have the goal to be able to work at home or to have 2 days off a week. But if people come into your space and they don't know how to find anything critical because everything's just like in disarray, it's going to be really hard for you to detach physically from your business to where you can work at home. And we have many of our clients who transition to where it's like, woohoo, I got 2 days at home now and 2 days. But people have to be able to find things. People have to be able to function in your space. Now, you might have a private office where it's like, well, nobody needs to go in there. That's okay. But for the most part, we're working in more shared spaces. And I remember one of my clients, Angela, who was telling me that, that her office was positioned right there by the time clock. So when people punched in, it's like, there she was. So she's like, how do I have that division? So we gave her some organizational ideas to really have that separation. But we have to be able to let go that, it's okay for people not to see our face, not to see our desk when we need that time by ourselves. But Michael, one of my clients years and years and years ago summed it up beautifully. She said, I walk in to my childcare program, bags over my shoulder, purse in my hand, books in my hand. And she says, before you know it, I'm greeted by 10 staff who all need different things. And then children are pulling out my pant legs. And then somebody throws up on my shoes. And she's like, this is all before I even get into my office. She says, I got my hands full. And then I'm getting all these staff. I need this, I need this, I need this. Kids coming up for hugs, throwing up on her. So, the days that you have as a leader in this industry are not typical of what other people might go through in other industries. It's a very specialized group, but a lot of the same organizational principles can work for you and are applicable to what you're going through. And I think there are very few people, I think, of genius caliber. They say that sometimes disorganization is a sign of genius. Well, I know I'm not at that level of genius because I can't function. I think I can. Oh yeah, it's under that third pile on the right. And I used to be in a place where my cubicle at work as a financial manager in corporate America for a large telecommunications company, and my walls were just getting so insulated with paper. It was like, whoa, if anybody ever lit a match in here, we'd be going up. But I really had to learn how to function in my own space and how to help others function in my space too, so that as a team, we could really progress positively. So unless you're Einstein, who I believe functioned in an incredibly messy space, or I also think of like Doc on Back to the Future. We're movie buffs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you're a Back to the Future fan.
I am indeed, John. I know exactly what you're referring to.
Yeah. So like his space was crazy, but he's like this brilliant scientist and nobody's ever going to come into his space and like try to figure it out unless you're Marty and you want to play the guitar, or Einstein and you want to eat your dog food. But it takes a very special person who can really function in an incredibly messy place and be productive.
When I was kind of putting some prep notes for the show and ideas, and this is definitely a topic that I've invested a lot of money in with coaches and things like that, but it's also one that I have struggled a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But I guess I had a couple of ideas that I think will hopefully resonate with our directors and owners that are listening. And the biggest one, and I believe I've mentioned it in past episodes, but not to a great extent, is if you were to kind of pin me down and say, Michael, I mean, what's one of your secret sauces to getting things organized so that I can start to spend more time on what truly matters? And that's something, I mean, personally, that I've been struggling with the last week or two, realizing that a lot of my days have been kind of owning me and not kind of getting in the zone, and can unravel that one a little bit further. But when I take a step back and look at what is that one thing that I were to start with, because Julie and I could throw a dozen things at you between planners and organizers, and this is how you kind of offload things that from your brain to do. Like there's a lot of those that we can share, but for me, the one that has made the biggest impact is this thing called gathering points or gathering places. And what I want you to do is take out a sheet of paper and start to list all of the different places that you have to go to get data, or all the places that you store data. So example, do you have one email account that you check, or do you have your personal email? You've got a work Gmail, you have a at your domain name email. So then all of a sudden you're at 3.
Right.
Okay, great. And then you just so you start with the digital ones. Do you have Google Drive? Do you have Dropbox? Okay, so you continue to go through all the places. And what you're going to find more often than not, after you do the digital, then you go to physical. So do you have work stuff in your car, in your glove box? Do you have stuff in your office, but you have a filing cabinet over there? You got some papers here, you have some on your desk. Those are all separate gathering points to where you're literally having to, because what I learned was that this creates overwhelm, but it also just creates a little bit of chaos where you're then trying to, well, is it in Dropbox? Is it in Google Drive? Did I email the file to myself?
Yeah.
Do I have it on a USB drive? So you're spending all this time trying to find things.
Yeah.
And I learned that when I initially did the exercise, I believe I had 38 gathering points. So your cell phone is obviously another gathering point, but you could start to look at your cell phone not just as one. Your voicemail is a gathering point. Your text messages, if you're getting work stuff, which I guarantee you are, that's another place that you're having to go. I know Julie and I use a tool called Voxer. So that's now another gathering point. And I was almost just under 40. And the key then was realizing that, but then looking at how you can start to eliminate some of those, or how can you start to automate? So for example, while I'm using Voxer, does Voxer then send me an email with the notification? So I don't have to go to Voxer. The gathering point is now my email. Can I have all of my emails forward to one place, and then I can send and receive emails from, so like my main Michael at No Joke Marketing email, at one point I had like 9 different emails that I was having to go log into 9 separate, we use Google for our email, 9 separate places. So now everything goes into one. So I eliminated 9 down to 1. Yeah. Same thing with calendars. Do you have a personal calendar and a work calendar, which most people often do? Well, you can have your personal calendar populate your work calendar, and only certain people can see that. So that would be and there's other kind of big takeaways and tactics I can give you, but my big one and my first one really would be to take a look at all those gathering places, and then look at how can you start to eliminate or combine. And the other one kind of with those gathering places was papers. And I realized that, so I would get the mail and work mail. So I have a PO box, which is a gathering place. But then I would get that, and then sometimes
there are far too many gathering places.
Yeah, like they're just all over the place. But each of those creates an issue. It came up this week. I was like, "Where's this particular tax document that I needed?" I don't have it. Well, it was sitting at one of I have 2 different boxes at the UPS store. So it was sitting in one of those boxes that I failed to, because usually I had it set up where they would send me a notification. Well, they only send me a notification, I guess now, if it's a package. So when I thought I had a good system in place, I didn't. But it was just realizing all those, and then the paper one usually is the one that trips people up. And it's the simple solution, and I have it on my desk. I can't reach it. But it's a big, what I call it the inbox. And it's a big wire mesh basket. Everything goes in there. All my mail, any papers, everything. I don't start randomly going through it. Everything goes in there. And then I guess the other piece to this whole gathering point system is something called processing. So I guess I'll give that other nugget, and then I'll pause and stop talking so much. But everything goes in that box, that inbox. And then twice a week, usually for 90 minutes, I throw my headphones on. Or for me, I've got a bad obsession with Netflix or Amazon Prime. So often I like to throw on a video while I'm doing this. But I'm just adjusting my headset here. I will go through and you process everything that is in that physical inbox. And I won't go through the whole system of processing, but it's the whole like do, delegate, done. And if you can do it in 2 minutes, you do it right then. If it's going to take more time, you calendar it. So I won't go through that whole system. But for me, one of the biggest ways to really start to organize my life and my business was to get my gathering places down, because I was literally like, some stuff was on my personal Google Drive. Some stuff was in Dropbox. I also had OneDrive. I was using, I had extra storage for my Mac computer. So I had some stuff in iCloud. And I was just spending an absorbent amount of time daily. I mean, just trying to find stuff. And even if it was 20 minutes a day, that 20 minutes now I can work on what's actually going to move the needle: hiring, working on new lead systems, writing a piece of content. I mean, training myself on something, the stuff that matters, rather than, well, I just wasted 20 minutes trying to find, I don't know, a W-2 for one of my team members or something.
So true. So true. It happens with emails. It happens with physical things where it's like, okay, where is it? Where is it? So I love the idea of what you're sharing with gathering places. I even think about that with gym shoes in my house. All right, all the gym shoes go here, because otherwise everything's so scattered and it's like, where's this? Where's that? So I think gathering places is absolutely brilliant. Is there one, Michael, that you created that you think was like the absolute best gathering place that really helped you?
I mean, for me, I try and get everything. I'm an email person, so I try and get everything to email. So yeah.
I'll email to you.
Yeah, like I tried to have everything. So we use something similar to Slack. We use Teamwork Chat, and that was another gathering place. So my team, while they can ping me on there and I'll respond, if they have a request, they cannot do any requests on chat. It needs to go through an email, because otherwise I'm having to think, well, did I miss a task on Teamwork Chat? Did I forget about, like, everything goes to my email. I combined all my emails. I set it up where our ring list, like our voice over IP phone number that used to ring my cell phone, if I get a voicemail, now it just sends me a message to my phone, sends a message to my email. Here's your voicemail. So I try to get everything personally to my email. And then really the other one was that big physical inbox, because I would try and process the mail daily. I would have random things in there. Like I'd just have random things all over the place. I would go to my PO box and I'd have checks from clients sitting in the car, and then I'm forgetting to deposit. Well, geez, I forgot about those. So now I get it, and everything goes right into that physical inbox.
That's fantastic. And my big bin for all of my mail is called the Trader Joe's grocery bag. And it's actually, in the corner of my office somewhere, but it's just like everything I get goes in there so it doesn't get lost, and then I'll go through things. And what I really want to do, this is my goal is to be able to really eliminate the paper and eliminate the manual filing, and just scan the important documents and have those uploaded to my Dropbox where they could sit for an eternity if they need to. But I'm really looking to scan everything and then just get it out of my face in terms of paper, because the more piles of paper there are, the more I'm like, what's in there? Is there something that I need? Am I missing something? So it really leads me down this rabbit hole of negative thoughts when I see these piles or these, as you say, all these different gathering places of this, even the junk drawer can drive me crazy. And I've got just a couple junk drawers these days, but it's like going into that drawer, I'm like, what's in there? And why is it's such a mess? And I am not the most, organized person, but I do notice that when there is a pile, when there is something somewhere and I don't know what's in it, it's kind of, this leads me to a train of thoughts that's like, oh, not very productive to how my day's going to be. And if you're tuning in and you've got a great organizational tip, please share with us. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear what works for you. And if you do share with us a tip, make sure you tag me. But what I want to do is a little raffle for $25 gift card. And Michael didn't know I was going to do this, but $25 gift card to our Always Essential shop at happychildcareteam.com. So we want to make sure that you get some of our Always Essential gear, but tag me so I can make sure that I know that you've responded. But yeah, give us your organizational tips. What has worked really well for you?
I like it.
Yeah.
So I guess if we play with the kind of owning your day concept. So I think, I mean, step one, it is before you really can own your day, you've got to get yourself more organized. You've got to start to eliminate having stuff all over the place, because there is where is that our licensing certificate, or where is this, and who has that? So you've got to start to make space so that you can start to free up that time to do the things that are actually going to move the needle. So that really, I mean, is step one by a long shot.
Absolutely. And I recall years ago reading about Juliet Childs, and I may have shared this before on a previous episode of our show, but one of the most impactful strategies that I heard her share is that she actually, in her kitchen, she had so many tools, she was getting disorganized, and she really wanted a way to keep things neat, and so that she could find them. So she had her cooking show going on, and she wanted to be able to find this tool for that. So her husband came and he made her a little pegboard with pins in it so that she could really like put all of her tools up on the wall, kind of like you were in a shop. But he drew outlines around each tool so she would know exactly where it went on that board. So her little, the little thing for making, whipping up some batter, the little hammer for crushing nuts, whatever it might be, she could find that through an outline up on her wall. So one of my organizational strategies is to make sure that everything has a place. And this is Michael's, it piggybacks perfectly, I think, on what he's talking about with the gathering places. But if something doesn't have a place, it's just going to become a pile. And if that pile just continues to accumulate, then that's when you get into like, oh, what's in that pile? Got to organize that pile. And you start thinking about that pile. So make sure that everything, at least everything of importance, has a special place so that you know exactly where your tool for this goes, or your certificates for this goes, or Julie's phone number goes so that you can reach out with staff issues and all that kind of stuff, or Michael's number for marketing. But have a place for everything. Important phone numbers, your success Rolodex, where's that at? Or is it just a bunch of papers or Post-it notes, which I know we're famous for in this industry, using lots and lots of Post-it notes, which I think can be really good if done right. But a lot of times we just have another big pile of Post-it notes. We're like, okay, now what do we do with all these things? So have a place for everything.
Do you have, it doesn't necessarily just have to be all about kind of organization, but do you have an example of maybe a center that you've worked with and kind of help transform some of their systems around their organization, or kind of owning their day a little bit? I don't know if anyone kind of comes to mind or not, but.
We did a challenge. I totally forgot about this until now. I actually have a whole audio program. It's, gosh, I don't even know if it was like 10 modules, but it was called Reclaim Your Time. Oh, I gotta get that sucker out again. Thinking about it now, like that was good. But we actually had many owners go through this, many leaders, directors and owners go through this. And what they found is that in the space that they sat, they literally had garbage bags filled with stuff. So the challenge in reclaiming your time was to clear out your space and to really make yourself as productive as you can be in a 10-week period. So we had owners and directors who literally, I think one of them, one story that rings out in my ears is that we had somebody who actually rented a storage shed, and she carried out like 30 large trash bags from her office. She's like, I don't know if I want to get rid of this stuff, but I know I don't need it immediately in front of me to be successful. So she packaged it all up, got it into trash bags, and then rented a storage shed and moved it from her office into that shed so that she could come into this clean, organized, creative space. And this is only one of the leaders that participated in the Reclaim Your Time challenge. But it was really a hauling out. The challenge was to look at our workplace at the start and then to look at the end, take pictures, and really be in a place that inspires you. So when you open your doors to get into your office, does it inspire you? Is there a favorite motivational quote on the wall, a favorite vase of flowers? One of our owners, Mary, actually had her grandmother antiques, and she made the workspace behind her all clear, and she made a beautiful shelf where she put these things that she treasured, so that every day when she came in, and this was her home office, I believe, but every day when she came into her home office, she could look at her space, look at those antiques, and go, this is a place where I want to spend my day. But so often we get into our space and we go, oh, God, another day. How am I going to get through what I need to get through? But really, clutter on the desk, clutter in your office creates clutter in your mind. It just does. And like I said, unless you're one of those especially brilliant people who can really manage around that clutter. But there's not too many people who really can be as productive as they can be in that kind of space.
Hi, I think that's a really interesting idea. It is just to kind of start to just look at decluttering, but even I like the idea of looking at the energy of the space around you. And there's some people that they feel like they thrive in clutter, but I as Julie said earlier, I mean, I know of very few of those people. And for me, I know that if I have clutter all over the place, I just start throwing stuff out candidly and just get rid. Like usually most of the stuff that you're saving, it isn't of that importance. So what kind of, I know you mentioned you're starting to scan stuff. Do you have like one of those neat scanners, or what are you, how are you executing that?
So
that sounds like a lot of work.
I was thinking about just taking pictures with my phone.
Oh, there's a really good app. I don't know.
And uploading the images. Yeah, there's probably an app. But yeah, no, I haven't. And you can scan right with your phone. So I'm like, instead of keeping this, because I have file cabinets. All of my electric bills, my gas bills, my phone bills are all neatly organized and in file folders. And I started pitching those suckers. I'm like, why in the world do we take all the time to like organize these things so succinctly? Right now you could just take your critical things, whether it's your property tax bill or your license, take a picture of it and upload it to a secure place online, or even just to a storage device on your computer, although I probably wouldn't trust that because I've had some crash. But I would definitely go to either a Carbonite or a Dropbox and just make sure your documents are secure there so you can find them. Same thing with pictures on your phone. I mean, how many of you are like maxing out and you got all these photos on your phone? Mine don't back up anywhere, not yet. So I'm like, all right, I just keep backing up into a Dropbox, and I know everything is safe and secure there.
No, that's a great idea. I was just looking as we were talking, an app that you might want to check out as well as our listeners. It's Scanner Pro. It's like $3.
Ooh, Scanner Pro.
Scans things right to a PDF for you. So I use it all the time. You
use that one?
All the time. And I just I just did that exact exercise you were describing of like retaking pictures of birth certificates and social security cards and then store those securely in the cloud. So yeah, definitely a great thing.
I think that's a fantastic idea in today's day and age in digital. It's like, yeah, why not put it up there? You could always print out a copy if you want to. And I know a big question that comes up is, well, where do I start? I'm surrounded by paper. Where do I start? So I would love to give you one idea on what I did back a few years ago when I was still hauling around piles of paper. And this is something that I repeat because, man, Michael, I don't know about you, but I don't know how the paper finds its way into my house. But it's like you get, the mail that comes and everything. It's just like it all just piles up so quickly, especially just after a week's time. So one thing I started doing is I went to the Dollar Tree store and I got these little bins. I should have pulled one, but it's just like, just a little bit bigger than a sheet of paper, and maybe it's several inches deep. And I put labels on those bins, taxes, must pay bill, important things like birth certificates or death certificates, things like that. And I just labeled each one of the bins, and I actually have a picture of this somewhere, but then I spread the bins out around my whole room. And I went through these piles of paper and I just sat there watching like my favorite movie, probably Grease. And I just like threw things into the bins like, oh, okay, there you go, there you go, there you go, there you go. So this huge stack of papers was suddenly dispersed into all these different bins, including a bin for recyclables and a bin for throw out, a bin for shred. So I had those different bins that were all set up, and then I just kind of like flung them into different bins. I went to the Dollar Tree store, like I said, $20 in these little bins. And to me, it was so much easier than trying to put things into file folders or into a file cabinet. It just was a much simpler process, was to go around with these bins. And to this day, I still have the bins in my closet. They're just like all spread out across the floor. So I could just throw things in them whenever I'm in that organization mood.
No, I like it. And I think that's often what is one of the stumbling blocks for people, is that there's just really trying to figure out like where to start.
Yeah.
And where they kind of get stopped in their tracks. So I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit, and then I know you were talking about, and I know a couple of our listeners have grabbed your books. I want to make sure that we talk about your book and make sure that our listeners grab a copy. If I were to shift away from, I guess, physical organization, maybe give us kind of one of your best tips or tools or ideas or however you want to share it, just around starting your day. So I think that's what a lot of childcare center owners, that when you and I are working with them, I can tell when they're like all over the place or frantic. Yeah. And I'll just ask, tell me how's your day been? Not even just how's your day been going, but like walk me through some of the different activities. And you definitely have to get yourself organized and start to eliminate clutter, start to eliminate gathering points, as we talked about. But do you have, an idea or two? And I know we've talked about meditation, we've talked about journaling, we've talked about some of the planners that you and I have used. But is there, if we were to give them one thing of like, this is how you can really try and better control your day, what would you throw at our listeners?
I would say the evening before the next successful day happens. So Tuesday evening, pull out your planner, pull out a piece of paper, and just look over the main things that you want to accomplish for that day. So the main objectives. So not even all the little tasks, but what are the main goals? So I would really be looking at, all right, when Wednesday comes, what am I going to be doing? How do I see myself? And then I would also, on that sheet of paper, write down how you want to feel throughout the day. And this is so important. And then write down a few ideas that you have for how you can sustain that feeling. So perhaps you want to feel successful, you want to feel in control, you want to feel worthy, whatever it might be. And ask yourself, how do I sustain those feelings? So it might be putting on something that sparkles. It might be, writing with a special gel pen. It might be whatever it is for you. But think about how you want to feel. Now, if you also want to end the day feeling productive, feeling like you ate healthy, then, those are things to be thinking about the night before. And for every minute you spend planning, you say 4 to 10 times that amount in execution. So to me, it's really important that you be thinking about your plan the night before and actually physically writing it out on a piece of paper, including maybe 2 main objectives that you want to accomplish, just 2, and how you want to feel and what you're going to do to support those feelings. Review that in the evening, and then you'll find that in the morning, you're just like really set to rock and roll and get those things down. And sometimes I find if I just write it in my planner, even if I don't refer to it minute by minute, that it's like etched inside of my mind, and I go to work the next day to get those main objectives met. So that would be one.
I like it. I think for mine, I guess I'm going to give 2, but one is a little bit unrelated. So what I found personally, that one of the things that I've been struggling with, it is just kind of energy management. And I started doing an exercise. I'm not done with that. I'm going to do it for a month, but I started doing it maybe a week or 2 ago. And to keep it simple, and there's probably an app, but I couldn't find an app that I really wanted to use. But I'm trying to figure out why the camera doesn't look as clear as I would like, but that's okay. I created just a really simple Google form that asked me one question. On a scale of 1 to 5, what is my energy? And I got to get back to wearing my Apple Watch, which is sitting in a drawer that I bought and haven't used, because I want to set that reminder to go off every hour to fill the little form out. But I've been filling it out probably 10, 15 times during the course of the day. And I'm starting to look for trends. So I want to do it for a month and look for a couple of different trends. But is there kind of, I guess, that zone of genius, as some people call it, where is my best energy 10 to noon, for example? Is it right in the morning? Is it, I'd find that I have a crash usually around now or leaving a little bit before, like often 1 to 2:30, 1 to 3 Eastern. My energy often can be a little lower, but I've only been doing it for a short time. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye on, is there any trends? And then the second piece, I'm going to keep an eye, which I do believe, because I know you're on this kick also, but really just being cognizant of what we're eating. And did I have a huge cup of coffee in the morning, but my energy is still a 1? Which actually has been the case for the last week. So like, okay, well then coffee's not doing anything. Maybe it's the sugar and the cream that's actually having the opposite effect. So I'm going to go to that as kind of step 2, but step 1 for me was tracking kind of my energy, because a lot of people think, well, you've got to do it right in the first day and there, or first part of the day. And there's lots of studies that say, just getting comfortable here. You've got to own your day and rise early at 5:30. And there's all these different books of like the 6 a.m. club and Miracle Morning. And I'm not saying that these things don't work for people, but I will tell you that I've read just as much, if not more, of the opposite, showing me that you don't have to, wake up at 5:30 in the morning to be amazingly productive and to have a great day. And for some people, it actually does the exact opposite. And 4 to 6 is like their zone of genius, and they should do more of the boring, mundane things that like the have to get dones of like payroll or things like that. But then maybe 4 to 6, you're working more on rewriting your job descriptions, which is something that Julie is wonderful at, and working on your marketing and looking at your numbers. And like, so that's one completely, I guess, not random, but one idea that I wanted to share. But really for me, it's, I like your idea of obviously looking at everything from the day before. I try and boil it down to what's that one thing that if I were to accomplish this, the day will be successful. So I think a lot of us highly overestimate what we can do in a day, but we underestimate what we can do in a week. So
or a year.
Or exactly. So I've been trying to just look at what's the one thing, and I really try very, very hard, even if my zone of genius isn't in the morning, which I don't believe that it is. I do try to at least start my day, even if it's only 15 minutes, with moving the needle on that particular item, whether it's to write a piece of content, research something, even if it's, it could be something mundane that I've been avoiding for 3 weeks, and well, geez, now it has to get done today. But I look at what's that one thing, and I probably should look at it the night before. I do not do that as much as I should, so I'm going to work on that one as well. But that for me is just what's the one thing that if you were to look at this day before the day is up, that you'll be happy that it was accomplished and done.
Absolutely. I think that's really great advice. And also along with that is to really think about meeting your objectives by a certain time. So some people say they're going to be done by 1. Some say free by 3. They have different goals that they set to where they really get the main thing done by a certain time. But in order to do that, most experts realize, and this is something I'm working on, so this is not perfection talking here, this is something I'm working on, is that you hit those objectives prior to checking your email, prior to checking your phone. Because once, I don't know about you, Michael, but once I pick up this thing in the morning, it's like, ooh, where did that hour and a half go? I was sitting here writing posts and checking emails. And
no, exactly.
Wait a second, I was supposed to work out. I was supposed to do this. So, I'm really working on it. And the mornings that I've done this, it's just like, oh, my day is so good. So I get up out of bed. The first thing I do is I chug a huge bottle of water, get another one, then hit my workout room, then come down and do my mindset work, and then get ready for my day. But if I pick up my phone first, then it's like everybody else's agenda becomes mine. right? Who did I get an email from that I need to respond to? Who did I get a box from that I need to respond to? What's going on here? So if you tackle your most important things prior to letting other people's agenda impact you, you're going to be so much more successful and really live in a much more balanced space. I wholeheartedly believe that. So think about, can you knock out your most important objectives before you pick up the phone? And it takes discipline, and it takes rewiring yourself a little and getting out of that instant gratification, because I know myself, that's what I get when I look at Facebook. It's like, oh, you got 32 new comments on this. I'm like, oh, okay, who said what? Let's read this. Let's dig into this. But I think if you can really pull yourself away, there's going to be a lot more power in your day and a lot more success that you'll be experiencing, and you'll be feeling the freedom too, which is a lot of our goals, is to really feel the freedom so we have more time.
Completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So I know that you and I have had some great success with a lot of our clients the last couple of weeks, and I would love to just kind of hear a little bit more about some of the things that you've been up to. I know you've got a bunch of freebies. You've got Get Unstuck calls. You've got a Kick Butt book. I've got have some more props on my desk. I have a couple.
Is that what somebody said? It was Kick Butt.
Great content, Phil. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many one-offs of like that's, at least for me, those are the kind of books that I get the most out of. Or like, here's a tip: execute, and along with case studies and stories and quotes. And so just kind of give us a little bit more about kind of what you're up to these days. I know you're going to be doing some other fun stuff with a variety of other things, but I won't want to let the cat out of the bag on any of those just yet. But feel free to kind of tell our listeners a little bit more, and I'll make sure I put a couple of the links as well here.
277 different things are in the work with this creative brain. And my boyfriend's like, he's like, I would never want to be inside of your head, because it's just like the ideas keep flowing and churning, and I have to purposely turn it off, which is another good organizational strategy, is learning how to turn it off when you need to get some rest. So what we're up to, one of the big things that I love doing is making staff motivation a joyous journey. And we're in the process of really getting our re-releasing our total team transformation system and updating that. But we have our childcare program of excellence, and you can hop in and ask questions and get immediate solutions to the challenges that you're facing with staff. So I'm thinking about this because we've got another Q&A call coming up tomorrow. And I really love these because we have leaders who will write down all of their staff motivation questions, all of their leadership issues. And they say, Julie, I don't even, try to solve these without talking to you. So they come to the call, we work through it together, and then they've got a rock solid plan of action in place. And whether it's me or whether it's somebody else that you utilize, whether it's Michael for marketing, whoever it might be, I don't want you to go through your challenges alone. I really don't, especially when there are solutions out there that will propel you to a whole other level of existence. And I know that this is a very pain-tolerant industry, meaning you sit in your pain because you're thinking, you know what, I should be able to handle this, I should be able to do this, I should be able to figure it out. And yes, you're brilliant. Yes, you're smart. Yes, you're fantastic. Yes, you created this success in your life. But if it's still not where you want it to go, you've got to reach out and you've got to get some help, because that's going to expedite your success so much quicker. So marketing or staff motivation, but that's what I love about our calls, is that we have leaders who were sitting in their pain for weeks, months, years, and now they just show up for the calls. And like we have Diana, who comes on. She's been with us for just 2 months now, and she shows up and she does the work. And she's like, Julie, she's like, I am feeling like we've already transformed our workplace, and this is just in 2 months' time. So to me, that's so inspiring, just to see her put into place the work and to come to the calls and ask her questions, and to start in 2 months feeling something totally different about her staff than she felt when we had our first initial consultation.
I love it. What would be, I guess, a step one? Would it be the Get Unstuck call in tandem with grabbing a copy of your book? What would you suggest? Yeah,
so if you go to childcarebusinesssuccess.com, there's actually a link for a free consultation. I believe if you click on, when you go to the website, there's categories: staff motivation, enrollments, time and money. If you click on any of those, you're going to be prompted to read a little paragraph, and then there's an application that you could submit to get on a free call with me. I encourage you, if you're having any thoughts, that, oh, I need some help, and if I'm not the right person, maybe I can recommend you to somebody who is. But let's get on a call together. And then also, we still have the free book offer up on the site. It's this free book right at the very top. Go ahead and get yourself a copy of that. And then also, we've got our free childcare business success group here on Facebook. So feel free to come to the group and just start interacting with me and the other amazing leaders that we have.
Absolutely love it.
Ooh.
Love it, love it, love it.
Awesome. What about you, Michael? I know that you were doing a guaranteed enrollment. I'm not sure if that's still happening or if your calendar has filled out with those.
Lots of fun things. We're doing a lot more with, so we focus on enrollments, but what I'm realizing more and more and more is, I'll give an example. And I won't name the center for obvious reasons, but we normally, when a center comes in and start to work with us, normally it's a long-term thing where we're driving you leads and enrollments and getting you to the place where if you've got one location, you're full, and then we aim to build a wait list. And ideally, you're like, well, let's do it again. Let's open another location and another and another. And that strategy isn't right for everyone. But every now and then we have a center that maybe there's just not a good fit. And this is the first time, at least my history, that this has happened, where a center said, I'm getting too many leads and I don't have time to.
Bad problem to have.
I'm like, okay. And well, I don't have time to be following up with the leads. So we no longer want to work with your company. And I was just floored. I'm like, so it took me a day or two, but like everything, I want to look at, well, how do we, if that's a problem that some centers are having, and it isn't always too many leads, but what we're realizing is that a lot of centers are having issues following up, managing, tracking, following up again, and just working those leads to get them into tours. So we're spending a lot more time now coaching, and everything is included in our packages. So we do everything kind of included, but we're definitely starting to spend a lot more time there, a lot more time with customer relationship management tools, whether you're using a tool that we built or any of the other kind of industry tools that have been around for a little bit longer. I'm a big fan of a tool called IntelliKids. I know a lot of centers have used, childcare CRM. So doesn't really, the tool for me is really irrelevant. There's always pros and cons to every tool. And I could give you pros and cons on really anything in life in general, but it's not the tool, it's how you actually use the tool. And that is usually, exactly. And I just, right before we got on, I hopped on this live, I was on with another center and just was there listening to different challenges, and the challenge is lots and lots of leads, but it's a lot around the systems of, well, great, how do we warm up those leads a little bit quicker and kind of qualify, disqualify. So we're doing a lot more with that, whereas or in the past we used to focus on kind of drive the leads and get the leads and then say, okay, great, I'll throw my URL up also, I guess. Just drive them and okay, great, let's see what you can do. I would say that we're spending 80% of our time now working more with the directors and the people managing the leads. How do we actually make sure that the directors are successfully following up? What scripts are they using? What's their energy like on the calls? Do we need to crack the whip? Do we need to give them some feedback? So that's kind of where I've been focusing, and
what an incredibly valuable place to be focusing, because I think that's where they need a lot of help. And I think this show will help you overall, because if you have directors who are overwhelmed, unorganized, whatever it might be, it's going to be really hard to take action on the things that are going to drive more success to your childcare program. So I really think that there's so much value in the coaching that you're doing for being a part of your service.
And usually, I'll end with this statement, and I put up the URL. It's just localchildcaremarketing.com. usually it's not an issue with leads. And even if whether you're working with an agency or not, obviously an agency, their job among others is to help accelerate the amount of leads and diversify your lead sources. But even if you were doing the marketing yourself, which a lot of childcare centers that they try to do initially, it usually isn't a lead issue. It's almost always a follow-up issue. It's a, well, geez, I didn't think, Michael, that you're telling me I got to follow up like 8 to 15 times. Like I thought these people were lock and loaded, ready to go if they fill out a form. They're not. There's so many options. Even though, yes, there are childcare centers that are closing left and right, I'm also seeing the opposite of new childcare centers popping up left and right, new franchises that I've never heard of. I've seen more small franchises, at least probably in the last 3 months, than I have in the last 5 years combined. That I did like 5 center location. They're like, hey, we want to start franchising. And all of a sudden I get a solo franchise. They're like, oh, I'm a franchisee. And I'm like, I've never even heard of the franchise. So that this isn't a Goddard or Primrose, but there's a lot of these smaller centers are starting to pop up because they've got the finances and they've got the resources to execute. So that's what I've got on that. It's just, I guess, a parting piece of advice is, regardless of, again, if you're working with an agency, I gotta make sure I don't know if my camera does that if I'm not close enough that it was like getting fuzzy. Tech problems as usual. But
I have my glasses, but to me, you look crystal clear now.
No, it's like if I move back, it looks a little fuzzy. But that's what I get for using fancy stuff. But it just analyze and just take a look at whether it's you, whether it's someone else. Are you effectively following up with your leads, your opportunities? That is always like the first place that I started a new relationship is we do a reactivation campaign because I know for a fact that either yourself or your team did not follow up with the leads that you already have well enough. Like we're doing those every week and they're always driving enrollments. Always. So I know
powerful stuff. So you want them to go to localchildcaremarketing.com?
Yep, definitely. They can schedule an enrollment acceleration call right on the site. So I know you had a wonderful quote for us for today, or you had a quote prepared. So I'm excited to hear it, but I really hope that everyone got a lot of value. We gave a ton of great tips, from gathering points to preparing the night before, to owning your day, to clearing your energy, to looking at it, making sure that you've got a space that you enjoy working out of, that's good vibes, to getting all your paper organized. Just lots of really great tips and tactics on today's episode.
Yeah, we're gonna have lots more for you coming up on future shows. So make sure you put this in your calendar. Organizational tip, put things in your calendar that Julie and Michael are here live on Wednesdays at 1:00 Central Standard Time. And we're really here, just committed to helping you create more success for yourself in your program and, in your life too. It's a hidden agenda of mine anyways. So we're so happy that you tuned in today. And like I said, if you have organizational ideas that you've implemented, that you've had great success with, put them for us in the comments, tag me in that post, and we're gonna do a little raffle drawing for a $25 gift card to happychildcareteam.com, which is where all of our Always Essential and Love is Always Essential gear is featured. So
love it.
Pretty excited about that. All right, you ready for a quote?
I can't wait.
Okay, so this one, I was, I kind of like study other speakers and listen, and there's just quotes that just really hit me, and this one spoke to me. So this quote goes, your perspective can be your power or your prison. And this is by Trent Shelton. So let me see if I get that in. Your perspective can be your power or your prison. And to me, that was very powerful when I heard this quote. So I hope you'll take this and think about it, and think that at any moment, we talk about controlling your day. You've got to control yourself, and you've got to control your mind. It's something that you can totally master control over. And if you have the perspective that good things are going to happen, that enrollments are going to come, that staff are going to be motivated, that you're going to be crazy successful in spite of anybody else's success. There's a lot of abundance and success for you too. Your whole day is going to be different. So change your perspective, change your life. So
Love
your
it.
perspective can be your power or it can be your prison.
Great quote to end today's episode. Thank you, everyone, as always, for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, great rest of your week. Leave us some comments, questions, leave us some love. Make sure you enter the contest. Julie's got amazing gear. Absolutely love everything that she has.
Thank you.
Enjoy everything. Keep rocking and rolling. Keep the momentum moving. And we will see you back here next week.
See you next week.
Bye, everyone.